TV, part 2, 9:29. Actually, we're getting off a minute early, and the bumper's running. We are recording. We have the streaming service connecting and synced up in multiple destinations. Dell is standing by in the green room, and we will start a countdown to Studio 13. Well, good evening and welcome back. It's 9:30 on the East Coast. It's Tuesday night, and so many of you are tuned in because you know that Dell Didway is our regular guest at that time. Thank you, all of you, so many of you who watch this on social media, and we really appreciate you taking time and stopping scrolling. We also want to invite you. There's a party going on at pjnet.tv, a live chat room. The same video content is playing there. We'd be happy to have you join us over there if you wish. If not, stay right where you're at and enjoy the program because we've got a good one for you. As you know, Dell Didway joins us every Tuesday night at this time. He is standing by in our green room, and Dell blogs weekly every Tuesday at delldidway.com. I'll put that on the screen because I want you to spell it right, because if you don't spell it right, you won't get there. And that's how you spell it. That's how you get there. And Dell, before we go into your blog, I want to take a moment to tell you just how much I appreciate you and how much we at pjnet.tv appreciate you, because as I was reading that, I came under some conviction that sometimes we just don't say the simple thank you to our teammates, to our family, to our friends, to our business associates. And it's a simple thing to do, but it's so easy to overlook. So I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how much I appreciate you and your dedication. You've been with us a long time. You were the first one, the tip of the spear, that when there was no reason to be here, you saw a vision, and you've been with us faithfully ever since. So I appreciate you, Dell. Your blog today is not getting appreciated.
Yeah, well, thank you. I do appreciate that. I appreciate everybody taking time each week to be out there. I appreciate Becky and her show earlier today. So she's one of my dearest friends, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, it's easy to overlook, and sometimes it's easy to not take for granted, but just not to say thank you, but. Yeah, well, certainly thank you, and for the time that you sacrifice every night, and I mean you get that big paycheck, but I guess
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, no worries, thank you.
Well, the and I was reading that, and I'm not sure if it was in there or not, but I got thinking, all of these things are earthly. Our eternal reward is exactly that, eternal. But yet we need that affirmation, in our flesh, just like we need oxygen.
Well, it's some things. I mean, if you work hard for something, and there's something out there that recognizes that's nice to get, it doesn't mean that what you've done doesn't matter if you don't get recognized. I mean, I was very grateful and humbled that one of my books won first prize at the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference. Had I not won, I'd been okay. But it's a little tells you, hey, good job. Even though I value that and I'm grateful for that, but I also value the comments from people I don't know who put reviews out there and who send me emails and who send me little tweets. Hey, got your book today, love it. And I don't know these people. So that means as much or just as much as that plaque, sitting behind my screen here. So yeah, those are nice to get. It's just something that society's placed a great deal of worth on that, I mean, in my sunroom, I mean, we have a gazillion trophies that my boys won over the years. Yeah. They didn't take them with them when they left.
And they sure won't take them to heaven. There's there's a difference though,
yes,
between not receiving affirmation, I'll call it, And I react, because people are just forgetful or just don't think to be considerate. And it's not
Right.
that they didn't appreciate it. It's that they didn't express it explicitly. It doesn't mean they didn't appreciate it. And the way we react to that is one way. But then there's one that really chaps your hind parts, is when you did the work, you earned the prize, and you got cheated out of it.
Yeah, of course, I pointed out I was jabbing at my wife a little poke. But, she, from what I understand, I didn't go to school with her. Top of her class, great reputation, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't get national honor. And, she's moved past that, trust me. But, I would hear about when we were dating a little bit here and there, especially when I was inducted. Just a few years later, it's how did you get in and I didn't? One of those things. So it's kind of funny look back at it now, because in the grand scheme of things, that looks good on a resume, but does it really matter a whole lot? So I don't even have it on my resume anymore. So, it helps you get into college, blah, blah, blah. But in the grand scheme of things, the things I won back years ago really, they're nice. They don't really matter. But, I hang them up. You haven't seen my office, but I have a slew. Well, you can see some stuff hanging on the walls behind me. I've got a lot of awards I've won, they're nice. They're nice. To be recognized for work, sometimes you get a little extra bonus or whatever. Mm-hmm. So those are nice to get. But, and one I blogged about was my friend Al Oliver, mm-hmm. who, very good, productive baseball player in Major League Baseball for back in the 70s and early 80s. Al was the all-star, 7-time all-star, mm-hmm. World championship ring that he played. He just wasn't on the team. He was an integral part of that
right.
team.
Mm-hmm.
Batted third or fifth, either before Stargell or after Stargell. And batting champion, 1982 batting champion. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And 303 lifetime average. And for folks who don't know baseball, 303 lifetime average is almost enough in itself to get you in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So 303 lifer, Silver Slugger awards. The guy has the resume. Mm-hmm. When you put his resume down, this says Hall of Fame. Compared to a lot of folks that are in the Hall of Fame, his stats are better than a lot of them in it. So, yeah. So when it came up, when he retired, he got 5 years, his name came up for consideration to the Hall of Fame. If you look at his stats, there's no doubt. It's just maybe not the first ballot, maybe, but he gets enough votes to get back on the ballot. And not to bore people, but how they get back on the ballot is they have to get a certain percentage of votes to get back on the ballot for the next consideration. He didn't get and it's not much, okay? It's not much, like 5%. So he didn't get enough votes to get back on the ballot the next time, which is really kind of a slap in his face. So, there's some reasons behind that. And, it was personality issues back then. Mm-hmm. And, I was actually contacted by Sports Illustrated back then to do a story on this because they thought, and Larry King even, when Larry King was in his heyday, Larry King did a whole thing about how in the world did Al Oliver get left out of the Hall of Fame? Mm-hmm. And I spoke to Larry King about it. And I spoke to a lot of sports writers who voted, whose vote are cast for the induction. A couple of them I reached out to, and I said, why didn't you vote for Al Oliver? And it was, a mixture of responses, but it was enough to where, the majority of sports writers felt the same way. So it was like, maybe there's something to this. It wasn't drugs. So it was just a personality conflict. That's the best way to describe it. So they didn't vote for him. And then a few years go by, a lot of years go by, actually. And his name is presented, in 2019 to the Veterans Committee. The Veterans Committee is a small committee and, made up of coaches and players and everything like that, and some sports writers. And they look at players just like who might have got left off for some reason. Why like Alan Trammell, great player for the Tigers, he got inducted to the Hall of Fame via this committee. So they thought Alan Trammell was great. He somehow he got overlooked. We're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame. So Al comes up in 2019, and I did some reading. I talked to Jim Palmer. Everybody knows anything about baseball. Jim Palmer's he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I talked to Jim Palmer about Al. I said, "Hey, what'd you think about Al?" He goes, "The guy could flat hit. He could hit my best pitches." Mm-hmm. And Pete Rose told me, he said, the best line drive hitter I've ever seen was Al Oliver. So anyway, long story short, didn't get in. And so you look back and you thought, what more? Hold on a second. Is this on?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So what more could he have done? And so we sat down and talked to Al, and there's a chapter in the book about dealing with this, because this is something he greatly, and not just because I'm a friend, looking at it, I'm like, this guy, even if I didn't know who Al was, this guy's resume is Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. Didn't do drugs, didn't do anything wrong. Because there's guys in the Hall of Fame that have done some questionable things, and I did a column years ago about that. When Pete Rose was banned, there's a lot of guys out there who've done a whole lot worse that are in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So anyway, that's a different topic. But so Al, sit down and talk to Al. There's some of these local movements to get Al in. We're going to sign a petition, get him on the ballot. That's noble. That's a great thing to do. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It makes them feel good to get on the radio station and say, we're going to get out of the Hall of Fame. No, they're not. And it's a shame, because his stats and his playing the field is enough to get him in the Hall of Fame. So I sat down and talked to Al. I said, what's your thoughts on this? Are you bitter? But if anybody has a right to be bitter, it's Al, because he is a Hall of Fame player who, more than likely, I'm not negative, I'm being realistic, probably won't see the Hall of Fame, except as a visitor. And so is he bitter? I just know what he told me. And we sat down to call. I see Al a lot. He still lives here in town. And he just looked at me and says, you know what? I've moved on. I've let it go. And I believe him. Because he said, if I would sit around a pal, he said, that would just ruin my life. So Al has moved on. He's accepted it. You don't have to like it to accept something. So he's moved on. He said, the best thing I can do is be a great example to my grandkids. Yeah, he's a clergy. He's a good witness. He's a good guy. So he's like, you know what? The Hall of Fame I'm looking for, the best is to get to heaven. I want to make that Hall of Fame. And if I make that Hall of Fame, then my legacy's, good. Then my legacy's what it should be. Baseball Hall of Fame, yeah, it'd be nice, but he's moved on. He knows the chances of that, I won't say are never, but they're not good.
Yeah. Well, he's moved on. So
yeah, he has, and it took him a while, but he's moved on, and he knows he should be in, and probably 80% of the people who followed Alster know. He should get it. It's amazing, and this will be a fast story, but Terry Francona is the manager of the Cleveland now Indians, and he coached the Red Sox to World Series title. He played with Al in Montreal, and a couple years ago I went to Cleveland, and I wanted to talk to Terry Francona about the Veterans Committee that was coming up, the modern so. I go down on the field after batting practice, and he doesn't know I'm coming. He has no idea that Dale Duduit is going to come up and talk to him. So he doesn't talk to a lot of people afterwards. And so he comes over. I said, hey, Coach, I want to talk to you. And I told him what was going on. I said, Al's coming up, possibly for a vote with the Veterans Committee. What are your thoughts on Al getting in the Hall of Fame? And again, I didn't prep him. He had no clue. He just starts whipping off stats. He's like, man, in '82, Al, best offensive player I'd ever seen. He batted 344. He had blah 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 hits, and he did this, he did that. And I thought, how does this guy? This was 20 years. How does this guy know these stats? And so I go upstairs afterwards, up in the booth, and I'm looking up the year. I'm like, my gosh, this guy's right. How does he know this?
You fact check.
Baseball guys, they know these stats somehow. But so I just throw it up to him. He probably has never been given that question in his life. He knew all the stats Al had in '82, and said the greatest offensive player I'd ever seen. I said, does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? He goes, in my opinion, yes. But he says, I'm not on the committee. So, again, bitterness, Al has every right to be bitter, but he's handled it with grace, and he's handled it with dignity, and he's handled it the right way. So that's the right way to handle it. How Al has handled being shunned from the Hall of Fame is a great lesson.
Here's a question that I find posing to myself, and I share it with others as a way of holding myself accountable. When you have done a good work and it fails to get recognized, I think we all have a sense of hurt, a sense of disappointment, a sense, okay, I think that verifies our humanity, but then let's go deeper.
Yes.
Why, if you did a good thing and did it well, why is it so important to me that others recognize and affirm it? I think that points directly to our own insecurity.
I think it's just human nature, I think.
But
I don't know.
I think in the Word of God, I think that the humility that is called for throughout the Scriptures tells us to reject that worldly spirit and fleshly spirit, although we live in this tent, for now. The other thing is that if you allow this to get to you, now, of course, to feel the experience is one thing. To have a bird fly over your head is one thing. To allow it to build a nest in your hair is quite another. In so many cases, we begin to feed, we begin to nurture the contempt, the anger, and the hatred, and the toxicity that creates cannot possibly benefit ourselves or anybody else. Oh, tell us, you got a mug there? Or what kind of? Show us your mug, Dale.
It's my newest favorite mug. I have a new one every week because it's Papa, obviously. So that's my latest favorite mug. So I have another next. So maybe have another next week added to my collection. But I think that was well said. But yeah, I think it's either insecurities. It's just the narcissism. I think everybody's a narcissist. I don't care what they say. Everybody.
Well, it's just to what extent.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're supposed to be humble and meek, yet I'm out there every day promoting my book, saying, hey, buy my book.
Hey, Dale, your blog didn't promote a book this week, did it?
Yeah, I was promoting that one.
Oh, okay.
So I got Devotions 2, which launches here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
I said that was an excerpt from I got Devotions 2, a little cheesy plug.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And Kyle teaches a class on that. We're supposed to be humble, show humility, and that's fine. And I think I try to do it in a humble way, but there's only... I mean, I put a post out this week where I've hit a milestone as an author.
Yeah,
you got to tell people, is that bragging or is that? I don't know. So it's a fine line. I'm trying to juggle that, or walk that fine line. When you win an award, you want everybody to know it. I put a picture out of some awards. Is that humble? Is that just bragging, or a little both? I don't know. I think I put it out there, but I always am grateful. I try to show some humility and thank people, because it just wasn't me doing it. I mean, took the thousands of people who bought them, took my friends who promoted this. So it's a joint effort. So I try to thank everybody and show humbleness, but at the same time, I don't expect you to put out that post to me. If you don't do it, I have to do it.
Well, that's kind of where I was going, Dell, because one of the things I've noticed about you and some others on our PJNet family is you invest time tipping your hat to others, expecting nothing in return. or you
Right.
you don't expect any benefit for having done it. You simply want to point out, hey, read Becky's article, really enjoyed it, thought I'd share it with you.
Right.
And when we pour ourselves out and we invest in others, well, we shouldn't do it expecting them to do the same, but I think that it's reasonable to believe that that is one possible outcome. And I know exactly what my father would say when it comes to you receive an award. And of course, who wouldn't want to tell others? What's the point of getting the award? I mean,
Right.
the trophy's only worth about $20. Come on now.
I know. Yeah, I know.
But we put it on display to remind ourselves. And okay, so I know what my dad would say. He would say, "That's a great thing." If somebody else would have said it about you, that I know for sure that's what he would say. And one way to increase the likelihood of that is do likewise without them asking you to do it. And one of the things that we're doing recently, and we really should have been doing it all along, is when there's a post out there that promotes the PJNet brand and the people involved, we're putting links in the chat room. So folks, our chat room is actually open 24 hours a day. So you can come there and find links that take a look at it, and if you can pile on and help other teammates, do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it. I just do it when I see him. If I see JD's tweet out there, I retweet it, or Doug's, or Becky's. Sometimes I have to go look for them because I thought, and I make a conscious effort. I'm just using it as an example. I'll say, hey, I haven't retweeted Becky's tweet for a couple days, so I'll go find it, or JD's tweet or her Facebook post. So you do that, and not with ulterior motive, but it's nice, when they do too. So
well, and it also
I'm not going to stop if they don't.
It's a way of ministering to them not to fall into that narcissistic argument, because there is a guy sitting on our shoulder here. He's not our friend, whispering things in our ear. Is you need to promote your book, you need to promote your blog. Well, if others are doing that for you, that voice kind of gets further out there and more distant, and your book gets promoted, your blog gets promoted anyway. So let's be teammates and help each other out, and not be so dependent upon notifying the world by way of social media that we've won or achieved something. That would be the better scenario.
Yeah. So, I guess the whole scenario, the whole purpose of the blog was, if you don't get recognized, it's okay. As long as you can get past it, you can move on. There's things you can do, or try to do. It's just they're just suggestions. They're not, letting it go. Sometimes it's hard to let it go. I mean, and I was thinking back to some things I've won some awards I never expected to win. And sometimes the ones I expect to win, I don't get. So, I guess it comes around in circles. But yeah, I did do that was a cheesy promotion for Duduit Devotions too. It was an excerpt from chapter 21, which releases here in March 8th.
Well, oddly, I don't remember it, so it must have been done in a classy way. But I wanted to pull up your article real quick because you drill down and enumerate, I think, 4 bullet points. Mm-hmm. And, we're already over time. Let's go through them quickly.
Okay, you have to do it.
Okay. Make a choice to forgive. Be honest, okay?
Right.
And don't go through the motions, okay? Understand your emotions, okay? Number 3, lean on God. Okay, if you've been wronged or cheated out of something, God forgives, okay? And seek grace and have the courage to leave it behind and move on. And I think that more than anything else will help you. Well, you can live your life miserable if you choose to dwell on these things, because they're going to happen. So
everybody's going to win, you're going to lose more. And you're not going to get recognized for things you want to get recognized for. Maybe you don't get that promotion you're looking for, or maybe you're not getting that raise, or you're not getting that. If I didn't win the big CELO award, that was nice. I'd still be doing this show right now had I not won that. So did I deserve it? I don't think so, but obviously some others did. So actually, the book I think is my best written book has never won anything. so I think it's my best one, but
Well, massive success is the best revenge. That could be bullet point number 5 to satisfy that fleshly, carnal desire to get back at those who cheated us and transgressed us in some way. But Del, it's always uplifting, and I'm always glad to find your blog and read it, even if it's an obligatory preparation. Sometimes I read it volitionally. Sometimes it's like, oh, Dell's going to be on in an hour. I guess I better read his blog. But, so I confess to that. But at the same time, I've never read through it and thought, well, that was a waste of my time.
I know. So, but it was a good way to get a shot of my wife too. So
there you go. Well, Dell,
I'm kidding.
We appreciate you sharing, and we look forward to next week, and the world will be the same, and yet it'll look different.
I hope so.
And
I hope we survive tomorrow.
Yes, let's get through that, and we'll see you next week, Dell. Thanks for taking your time and sharing with us.
Thanks for everybody for being out there too.
All right. Brother Dell Didway, and there you see, hi up there, the view high atop the Eagle's Nest broadcast facilities here at pjnet.tv. We went a little long there. Thank you for your long suffering and patience, and I do want to remind you that tomorrow night is a special night. We have a guest at 9 p.m. Eastern, the Triad Coalition for Human Life, and we are going to have at least 2, possibly 3 guests in that 20-minute segment. And I know that it's going to be a blessing to all that see and hear it, and I hope that you will be counted among those who receive that blessing. So as I leave, I'd like to challenge you to ask yourself 2 questions, and it could literally change your life. Number 1, what is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And then number 2, when was that? I hope none of us are satisfied ever with our answers.